I didn't get a team name.
Hey, what's up, guys? All the best reasons.
You guys missed it. Jeremy just
redo
gave,
it.
like
Redo it.
like a
All the
Godfather
sponsors.
level speech on the intro, and it was like a detailed step-by-step plan on how to like get a Grand Prix in your city in like 20 seconds. And
Am I back now? I hope I'm back now. Otherwise, I'm gonna
I
feel
just got
real
MIB
bad.
flashed. I forgot all of it. The knowledge is lost.
No. Oh man, rip me. This is what happens when I travel. All of my stuff gets like messed up. Hold on. Yeah, I'm good
It
now.
says you're
Thanks,
good now.
Babatunde. So I was just telling everybody about joining the channel with that join button to support us. It's the best way to get the support to the channel. Gets you access to all kinds of cool perks, as well as even things like merchandise that we send directly to your house, and all that kind of cool stuff. And you even get a chance to maybe even make content yourself and put it onto the channel, which is a cool way to kind of, if you're looking to kind of maybe not start your own channel, but wanting to get yourself noticed, it's a really good way to do that too. So what I do want to talk about today, we're going to talk, I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think we should talk about the FoW Festival first, or should we talk about these GPs that just happened?
Let's talk about the FoW Festival first, because
Yeah.
I gotta collect my thoughts on how to yell at everybody about the GPs collectively.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, snap.
Oh, goodness. So,
I'm not happy.
So I'll talk about this, and the reason why I want to bring this up is because we're about to enter a season. All the GPs are done at this point. We're about to enter a season with no real competitive events leading up to Worlds, and now that ARG is out of the picture, kind of people have been left wondering, like, what do we do during this downtime? And we being myself, Josh Patton above me, and our buddy Joe Carroll, who has been on the Teachers Lounge before, decided, you know what, we think that we can put on something for the community that is going to get people moving and get people excited. So we decided to host I'll put up the screen here, the Force of Will Ruler School Grand FoW Festival. So you see it on the screen. This is our website. I'll put it in the link in the description as well, or sorry, in the chat as well, so you can just go straight to it. We are hosting this in October, and lots of cool details here on the website. It's going to be taking place in Michigan, over in Westland, Michigan, which is about 20 minutes north of the Detroit airport, which is very easy to fly into from pretty much anywhere in the country, as well as very cheaply because almost every single airline provider flies into Detroit. So, what to know about this event? We are trying to make it so that as much as possible, everybody who shows up walks away with a lot, definitely worth your investment. It's going to be two kind of tiers of pricing based on early bird, whether you pre-register, and whether or not you register on the day of. So it's 30 or 35, and then if you show up on the day of, it's 35 or 40. And what we did is we have a collection of 80, like 82, I think, playmats from throughout the entirety of Force of Will's history. And what it is you sign up, and at the lower level, you get a random playmat, plus everybody who enters will get at least a GP promo Lightning Cave that we were hooked up with, as well as other stuff as it kind of comes into play. And then for that additional $5, you get to choose one of your playmats. And we have some like really, really, really rare ones, like going all the way back to even the very first Bahamut ARG Circuit Series playmat. Like those are super rare. We've got a Christmas Lumia mat. Some of the ones that were like only a single print run from Ultra Pro. We've got a ton. And so that's just for entering. Pricing, however, is where it gets a little nuts. So we have decided to guarantee $500 cash to be spread out among top 8. So it's $200 to first, $100 to second, $50 each to 3rd and 4th, and then $25 to 5th through 8th. But then on top of that, if we break it to if we break 60 players, that's going to be $1,000. Like, we're just going to immediately double that money. Everybody walks away with double. But it's not just money. We also have, for top 8, we managed to acquire a full set of Arthurs, Uber Arthurs. So everybody in top 8 is going to get one of those. Is there a Gil Lapis playmat? I believe there's at least one Gil Lapis playmat in the pool. I'll have to
Probably
double check.
the old TMS Conqueror of the Black Moon
championship one, right?
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. I'm pretty sure there's one in there. And so we have the top 8 Uber Arthurs, and then as well we have the full plate metal Arthurs as well, going to 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And then the other cool thing is if you also place in top 8, like, we're making this top 8 like a ridiculously huge payout. Based on your final standings in top 8, we have 3 time spinning witches and a play set each of all of the promo dual stones. So Blasting Waves, Dark Depths, the Scorched Bales with Dark Alice on them, the Gusting Skies with Nameless Gusting Skies Girl on them, because we don't know who that is. Pretty sure it's Pandora. And then the Light Vapors, which has Dragon Millium on them. So if you place, the higher you place after Swiss in top 8, you get like first choice. So that'll go down, and then eventually the last 3 people, once the dual stones are gone, will get the time spinning witches. That is just what we have right now for top 8 and for participation. However, if you place 9th through 16th, because I think that it shouldn't always be about just the top 8, Dragon DKP Accessories sent us 8 of their full magnetic playmat kits, which are really, really cool for your traveling and doing all kinds of testing. And those are exclusively for 9th through 16th. Although if we break 50, I think if we break 50 players in pre-reg, they're going to send us another 8 to give away to top 8 as well. So more enticing reasons for people to sign up that way. And then we also have some stuff coming from the company and a bunch of other really cool prizing announcements and random raffle drawings that we're going to be doing throughout the event and everything else. It's being sponsored as part as well by Destiny Games. We're working with them. They're a store in Michigan, and they're going to be doing a Day 2 Epic Stories event too, which is going to be a lot of fun. So that's happening on October 12th. And we definitely encourage people to pre-reg because Josh and I made the commitment up front that we are not trying to make money on this event. Like, we want it to be 100% back for the community. So all of the entry fees that are coming in, once we make cost back, it's all going right back into the prize pool. Like, we're all just pumping it right back in terms of different cool merchandise that we're going to try to acquire and everything else. And the more we get pre-registers, the more we can do. So that's why we encourage people to take a look at it, consider driving, flying, anything else like that, and then click that pre-register link down below there.
Yeah, so then I'll kind of piggyback off of that. So we said once it gets to 60, it becomes a 1K, but like essentially that's just a name, right? Like if we get to 61, it's 1K plus $30. Like all of the money is going to the prizing. So like
Sure.
It doesn't become like at 75 people, it's still just a 1K. No, it's like 1.2 at that point or whatever we got to do, right? The cash, Jeremy, myself, and Joe are taking none of it. The sponsors are taking none of it. This is all for the players.
Yeah, for sure. And so what I kind of wanted to talk about is Josh, and I have been working on building the event. And so as people who have played in it, Aaron and Derek, or traveled in playing to events, I kind of want to talk to you guys about what you look for in terms of like what makes it worth traveling for you and what kind of things you look for in a community event that's run not by the company.
All right.
Sure.
You can go first, Eric.
All right. Excuse me. So for me, it's more so about just like the community itself. I enjoy just going out to different events and seeing people that I recognize from all over the place. You know, go to Pennsylvania. I got to hang out with Aaron and Ryan and got to see my twin again. So for me, it's a lot about that. And so I know a lot of me and the Minnesota guys are trying to plan a road trip here for this upcoming event, and just the feeling of being together with other people is just what does it for me, honestly.
Okay.
Oh damn, my answer is about to sound terrible now.
Well, that's fine. No, that's good.
I pretty much look for prizing value.
Sure.
I'm not. All right, so I'm a pretty cocky player, right? Like I think I'm like easily top 3 in the world kind of thing. Maybe even the best Forcible player of all time. Who knows? I do. It's me. And I'm not cocky enough to be like, all right, I can win every event I go to. So I don't look for like, oh, can I make money off of getting first place? I look at, can I make money off of getting top 8? And then if I'm feeling pretty confident, I'll be like, can I make money off of top 4? You know,
Sure.
stuff like that. But I generally like top 4 is where I cap out. Like I would need to at least make my money back on top 4ing if I'm going to travel, which is why like generally for 1Ks, I don't travel farther than like 2 hours or something like that. But
Sure.
I mean, hanging out with my friends and all is cool, but I don't know. I feel like I do that like 5 or 6 times a year at other events and stuff like that. So it's not like a huge draw for me. Like I'm not just gonna go to these things to see people. I'm not like a take a vacation kind of person. If I'm going to an event, I'm going there to play competitively, give it my all, and try and win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can totally acknowledge that, especially if you're traveling from farther away, and suddenly the payout has to be better to be able to at least break even. And coming from where I'm doing with this whole past season being travel to do streams, I've been relying on people in the community, people on the Patreon, as well as like promotional items that I am handed, like judge comp and stuff, for doing these streams to just try to break even. And I have to recognize that like flying is pricey, and then you think of hotels and everything else, and like we recognize that. And that was kind of one of the reasons why we looked in the Detroit area anyway, because it made it so that we, the 3 of us, didn't have to necessarily worry too much about cost, so that we aren't like suddenly digging ourselves this massive grave because we picked a bad time, or it's just a situation where not a lot of people are going to be able to come. And I think recognizing those 2 different attitudes in terms of really just in it for the community and is it drivable, let's do it, and looking at the payout or potential payout are both things that, as a tournament organizer, people in the community, if you're trying to start your own tournament, you have to recognize are there. And so I think it's important to balance those 2 things. Like our hope is that the pricing is enticing enough, and it's almost like we want the people who are more interested in the community to be so attracted to so much cool, like just base level pricing, that they provide I don't want to say the amplitude, but like the
bodies.
The bodies to then suddenly make the pricing that much more attractive to the people who want to travel. Like suddenly it's worth more. Like that's why we say like we need 60 players and we'll break it to 1K, and then it scales upwards based on every single person that enters the tournament after that. Like, so we're relying on the people, relying on people who just want to come and play to say, yeah, we can commit to $30 to play in this event. Cool. So then halfway through September, we can tell the community, hey, we've already got 60 people pre-regged. It's a month out. We're already at like, $1,200 to top 8. Like, and we're going to just go up from there, because Forcible players typically don't like to pre-register for events. I think we've had pre-registers in the past GP seasons, like what? I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 pre-regis. It's not a very common thing for Forcible events to do pre-registration, but I think it is something, it's a tool that if you're a member of the community trying to host an event, or a store trying to host an event, can help. But I think you also have to recognize that you're not necessarily going to be able to 100% gauge your attendance based on purely pre-registration. Because like there have been events where like 30 people pre-reg and then 70 people, 75 people show up.
Yeah, I can tell you at this point, there's been, I think, at least 80% of the events I've been into, like that Friday night, we're in the hotel and we're like, did you register yet? Oh, no, I didn't either. Okay, give me your phone. I got to get registered.
I want to say the Grand Prix in Pittsburgh back in 2016 had like 14 pre-registrations and then like 228 players. Because like it just didn't feel necessary to pre-reg. It was like I can just show up and hand you the money. Why would I take the 3 seconds out of my day to do this when like I need to get the forms anyway? So like I already have to go to the registration area.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean for us, like we actually got like it was such a blessing that Joe ended up presenting this to Jeremy and I, because like the connections for the venue and the other resource that we're using to run this website, like he threw this website up super quick, and the ability
Maybe a
for
day.
us to handle the money like without having to go through personal PayPals or anything along those lines. Like this is all like amazing for us to have that ability to pre-reg like this in a professional manner. You know, it's like you go to this website, you pre-reg, and like that's it, you're in. So like that is super like amazing that this is came to what it's been right now. Like I couldn't have picked this like 2 months ago when we started talking about this. This is amazing.
Yeah, the other thing that I do want to say, just for the community, because we recognize that traveling is difficult, but we've had a couple people ask, is if you do want to get in on some of the pricing support, so like if you want to get the Lightning Cave plus the other entry stuff that we're going to be giving out later, because we've got some stuff going on that way. If you want to get a playmat, mailed to you, you can still register for our event and then not show up, but just know that your pricing is your money's gonna go into the prize pool, right? So we've had some players who have reached out to me and asked like if they can support in that way, like they can't make it, but they want to still register and help out. And so that's definitely something cool too. And for those of you who are watching, if that's you, that's fine. We will still get you your your intro pricing. You just recognize that we
I mean, we'll do the intro pricing like if we don't max out with the intro pricing with physical people there, right?
Right. Yeah. Obviously, first come, first serve with people who are there.
Yeah.
But
so like, let's be clear, like we don't have 300 lightning caves to give away.
I
so.
don't. I have this many lightning caves. So
that looked like 300 lightning caves to give away.
It's 290.
And the rest of the cast will be Jeremy counting lightning caves. 1, 2. So, but I think what we want to do with this event, and kind of what we want to talk to the community about with this event, is that if you want to do these, if you want to make events happen, like putting in even just like the tiniest amount of effort to look who's in your area and look who might be interested in partnering with you and everything else like that, and you can make stuff happen. Like we've seen Svetlana is a store, right? Svetlana is a store who has the purchasing power of a store, who's gone really all in on Force of Will, and she does really great events all year round for Force of Will, right? We've seen Todd working hand in hand with a store that Portal, which does Force of Will there, and they've gotten the GP, and now they're running these other events, and that's great. So that's like a more direct store relationship. This event is just 3 guys in the community who are just like, we're gonna just do it. And so what I want it to be for people is a chance to recognize that you don't have to wait for a store to pull the trigger if you want to make something like this happen. But it is work, but it's worth it. So that's what we kind of want to do, and that's why we want to.
And it's risk.
It is. There is a risk to it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why we wanted to kind of do it ourselves first, to kind of show people what's possible and really drive a bunch of interest. And also just like, I've kind of been wanting to dip my toe in tournament organization for a while, so this is a kind of cool way to do that. And it also happens to be in a season that there is 0 competitive events outside of Worlds. So all you Worlds players who want to test for the format, because we're playing this format at Worlds, come on down to Michigan. I think Spirit Airlines can fly sometimes up. Yeah, I guess.
Up to Michigan?
I'm going to guess it's pretty much always up.
Yeah, come on up to Michigan. I think Spirit Airlines can fly into Detroit for like $80 from like most of their destinations. So even if you're just coming for that, yeah, pro bono.
Yeah, and also totally recommend like all you guys on the coast. Like there's a company called Allegiant Airlines, and so like for those of us that are like inland and we don't have a beach, we use Allegiant to fly to the beach. But it just so happens that they have to return us home eventually. So you could go from the beach inland on a super cheap flight with Allegiant too.
It's
like
true.
You could trick them like that. You could just be like, surprise, I want to go see trees.
Now take me back to the beach.
Now take me to
tired of the trees.
Tired of trees.
But yeah, like I used Allegiant to fly out to Vegas from Indy, and I know Allegiant flies into Grand Rapids, Lansing, Flint, maybe even. Just like a couple of the different places in Michigan. Also, you can hit like northern Indiana, like South Bend flies Allegiant.
Yep, there's a lot of easy places to go there.
Fort Wayne flies Allegiant. Come to Fort Wayne, I'll drive you there. Like you just jump in the car.
There you go. The other thing that I do want to say
a real
is,
offer?
Yeah, seriously.
The other thing that I do want to say to people is what we have announced so far in terms of pricing is not what we will all have for pricing. And this is not me being like, oh, I hope to get a couple things. Like, no. I have some things that are actually confirmed that I just am not allowed to announce yet.
Oh, we're not?
That I'm not allowed to announce it yet. That is gonna definitely make you want to come here, and it will hint. And I'll give you this hint.
Okay,
it has definitely something to do with the posts that I made in the community with those surveys about a circuit series, asking for people to give me information about their thoughts or what stores think. So it's connected to that, but I'm not allowed to say anything more yet. But it is confirmed to be happening. So just like
I can't even tell you how excited I am.
Like what? Like we have, yeah. It's like we have all this stuff already, and I have more stuff that's coming, like confirmed coming, and it's definitely going to be worth your time to look into traveling to this event.
Like this is the dream,
100%,
guys.
This is going to
be dream.
An event for you to run.
There was a hole, and that hole is going to be filled with love and joy, and it's wonderful.
It's going to be good. It's going to be real good. So with that out of the way, though, we had 2 GPs that were both very confusing in terms of composition of makeup, of events, and what decided to top 8. So I'm going to quickly go over – so Aaron is like seething with rage. So I'm going to quickly go over Glendale. I'll have Josh go over Toronto real quick, and then we're going to talk about why this happened. Maybe some reasons as to what we can do to avoid it moving forward. And then we're going to spend the last 20 minutes of Aaron just yelling at all of us. So Glendale had a grand total of 25 players. And then Toronto had how many? 18? So 43 total players between 2 events.
Yep.
In Glendale, there were 4 Gil players. The most represented deck was Gil at 4. Brunhild at 5. So it was Brunhild at 5, and then Gil and Lucifer at 4 each. And then, can I run the first satellite event for the new circuit? Probably, Todd. You'll just have to wait to find out some more information. The top 8 for Glendale had 0 Gils in it. It was 2 very different Lucifer lists, an Adam Harvest Rush list, 2 Brunhild lists, a Loki Machines, and I forget the other one.
I think it was Loki Altar.
Was it? Oh, yeah, a Loki Machines and a Loki Altar. So 0 Gils made it into that top cut, and we'll talk about why I think that happened here in a little bit. Josh, what did Toronto look like?
Look like this guy.
Toronto looked like Keurig.
Look like this guy right here.
Oh, I will say Glendale had 0 Keurigs in it.
My dream came true.
Toronto top 8 was 2 Keurigs, 3 combo Lucifer altars with the Ushuaïa. 1 Adam Roulette, 1 Shayla, and 1. I don't know if that 4th Lucifer deck was another combo. There was a 4th Lucifer, and I don't know if it was combo or if it was just a mono black without the combo. But yeah, there was 4 Lucifers, 2 Keurigs, 1 Adam, 1 Shayla.
And were there any Gil players in the tournament? Cool. So in Glendale, we had 4 Gils and no Keurigs.
Yep.
And in Toronto, we had 2 Keurigs and no Gils.
3 Keurigs. There was 3 Keurigs. There was another Keurig there.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Glendale in terms of why I think Gil didn't top. And that is the Arizona boys have some horrendous luck in terms of getting paired up against each other. I kid you not. Jalen Rojas, Andrew Vatland, all of the Gil players, Cal Tuma, and Jason Folk all played each other within like the first 3 rounds and drew a ton. Even with 60-minute rounds, what we were playing there, it drew a bunch. So what happened there is Gil didn't make it to the top because all the Gils just beat each other up.
Well,
Like,
they failed to
they
beat each
failed to
other
beat
up.
each other up.
Yeah.
Which was really weird. And then people were bringing a very, very aggressive, vulnerable aggro decks. Like, people were bringing very aggressive, vulnerable aggro decks. Like, the alter combo is sorry, not alter combo. Sorry, the harvest aggro, based on how it opens up, can actually just like out pressure Gil, where you're just like, okay, cool. Well, I have a very wide board, very, very quickly. This is a ton of damage very early. You force Gil to be on awkward, but the deck is very vulnerable to, one, stumbling itself, and two, it's vulnerable to decks that are other aggro decks that are more consistent. And it didn't have to worry about that because there were no Gils, or there were no Kyrix. So it was just this weird, like, Gil was stabbing himself in the shoulder, and then all of the decks that were there weren't getting gate checked by the decks that would normally gate check them. And so then we had this very, very interesting top 8. I mean, even in the finals was the Lucifer Dark Elf Rush versus Adam Sykehart Harvest Aggro. So there you go. That was very interesting. And we will have that match. We're going to be uploading the individual matches from Glendale all this week, starting tomorrow. So you'll be able to check those out. But why do you think Toronto went the way it did, Josh?
So Toronto was just a judgment call that we ended up making as a team. Like, we knew, looking at the previous results, that there wasn't really a defined Gil player in Canada, right? So the deck of choice up there was Lucifer, and it was altars, and they loved their divinity. So it was just like, it was primed for Keurig to come in and take advantage. What I didn't expect was the Lucifer deck choice to be the combo deck choice, because in our testing, that deck falls apart to a couple quick discard spells. You know what I mean? Like, the hand can get very cloggy, and a normal altar deck should outrun it. The problem is that the Canadian team, right? Dylan, Jean-Luc, Paul, they were all running the same list, so there was no other altars to challenge them, right? So running against that specific altar was very interesting. But then when you're dealing with just an 18-person event, there is no true segregation of the tiered decks. You know what I mean? Like, you don't. What ends up happening is that, like, you end up in top tables just with other people that aren't on tier decks, right? And then if you end up getting a short straw and you take one loss, you're stuck in Roguesville for like the rest of that event, right? There is no like other tier decks coming in right behind you. Like, when you take your first loss and you're like X-1, where you're still playing meta, you know, that we would consider, it's a free-for-all at 18 people, you know. Shayla, I had to play them in the third round. And as a Keurig player, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, how do I face mono blue Shayla, right? Now, luckily, I landed a couple tournament bracelets, and then there was nothing they could do about it, and so I walked away from that unscathed. But like, those kind of pairings are what should ruin a tournament. You know what I mean? When you show up with the best deck in format, but you go against the one deck that everybody else should beat, but they aren't beating it. You know what I mean? But yeah, 18 people, there's just no defined meta at that point. Like, there is no segregation. You're playing rogue the whole time. So, but Keurig did what he was supposed to. He handled the variance and was consistent the whole time. So, you know,
And Derek,
lucky.
You played in Arizona and you played Black White Brunhild.
Yep.
What was your experience of the meta there?
It was fairly interesting. I believe my round 1, I ended up playing against Green Black Lich. It was definitely interesting, but ended up taking that one. And then as we went on, I ended up playing against that Harvest aggro deck and completely disrespected that deck, I think. Didn't really think about how fast that deck actually could be. And ended up making a what I call an autopilot choice.
Yep.
So I had Layla and Evil Elemental Uprising in hand, and he has a dude on board already. And so my thought process is, oh, I just put down this Layla and block. And then I was like, after I did that, I looked at my hand and I was like, wait, instead of doing that, I could just hold up Evil Elemental Uprising and then just hose this matchup. Didn't do it, and then on turn 3, he's just like, all right, Martial Dead Awaken, hit 2 Jeans, and I'm like, oh, jeez. No Blade of Faiths in the hand, and I was like, yep, this game's going downhill real quick, and then 2 turns later, I was just dead, so, yeah, that was something else. And then going into top 8, ended up playing against the Lucifer Dark Elf deck, which is also another deck that I just wasn't expecting at all. And that one, just the damage was unreal in the first game, and then in the next game, my stones kind of just stumbled upon themselves, and we all know what happens when you get stone screwed against an aggro deck. You're just like, yep, that's a lot of damage I'm taking this turn. Call a stone for a white. Nope, no Blade of Fates. All right, well, GG, sir. And yeah, then it was pretty downhill from there on.
Sure. So, is there anything that you can think of, like, taking away as a tournament player walking into potentially a smaller tournament, that, like, you could take away from this in terms of deck choices, deck tweaking, sideboard choices, what the meta might look like, anything like that?
Oh, geez, let's see. So, when it comes to smaller events like this, I think the best option is to, well, at least for me anyways, is just play what you're most comfortable with. I know I spent hours and hours trying to think of like what deck would be good here. Oh, there's going to be a lot of Gills. Maybe I should play Gil myself. Maybe I should just play something completely different. Like I even wanted to play like this Lucifer hand hate control deck, and I kept worrying about Keurig. But honestly, in the end, I just decided to play what I was most comfortable with. What cards I knew the play lines of in most situations. And it ended up working out for me. As for sideboard choices, I guess pick certain areas, or not areas really per se, but like you'll have like your aggro deck and like your control deck, so to speak, and then try to find cards that fit into those areas rather than like specific matchups, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. You know, like a card that's not necessarily a Gil answer per se.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
Yep.
control answer.
Yeah.
So that it's not necessarily the best card, but it is still a better card.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm a little in volume. Oh, well, I can pump that up. Thanks for letting me know, Todd.
Bumped it up.
So, Aaron,
You
I wasn't
ready, Aaron?
kidding. Aaron, I wasn't kidding. You have 20 minutes.
All
Go
right.
ahead,
We
buddy.
have 20 minutes left
All right.
if you really want to go.
So about, I want to say like a month and a half before Arizona, pretty much a little bit before Nationals or like going into the ARG Nationals weekend, I had what turned out to be somewhere between 20 and 30% of the Grand Prix message me saying like, hey, what deck should I play? And I was like, you should all play Gil, right? Unequivocally, it's the best deck. If you can learn, you've got 2 months until your Grand Prix, you can learn it. Just put the time into Gil, it'll work out fine. Friday night, more than half of those people messaged me saying, hey, I didn't practice with Gil at all. Do you have a different deck I should play? And I was like, you dumb motherfuckers don't want to win a tournament. All right. So
Oof.
I gave them all a black-white Brunhild list that was essentially Derek's deck from Pennsylvania, but with 4 Jeanne d'Arc in the main, because Jeanne d'Arc is the best card against Gil. And it's not so one of the big strengths of Gil is knowing, like, you have to know the meta. When someone sits down across from you and you see 2 or 3 cards, you have to know what the other 37 cards are to play around it properly. If you go into it with that proper mindset and then suddenly a Jeanne d'Arc comes down in an altar deck, that's not something you were playing around. That's not something you should have been playing around. And it's something I wanted these people to be able to punish them for. Turns out there weren't as many Gils as I thought there were going to be. I expected, with how much I've been talking about Gil on this podcast, and even since I won North Carolina back in March, like that was 6 months ago at this point. I figured that somewhere out there was some mid-tier level player who was like, look, I really want to win a Grand Prix. I keep hearing about this Gil deck. It's won a couple of events all over the world and now in America as well. Like, it's time for me to put in the practice and, learn this deck. And apparently 0 fucking people did that. There were nobody on the planet fits into that criteria. And I expected like at least a couple of Arizona players too, because Arizona has always been a high concentration of skilled players. You have Jalen Rojas Andrew Vatlin, Delaney Bristow, Brendan Bremont. Like, those are all players out there. They have a strong local scene, and I expected them to at least have a little bit of influence over that meta, especially since Jalen has been playing Gil for as long as he has. And I know Vatlin's kind of given it a shot. I don't really think that's his kind of deck, but I know Jalen at least has been playing it for a long time.
Yeah,
I just kind of expected more to get a little bit at that tournament. Derek, did you end up running the Joan Darks in your deck?
I did, yes. Oh, and
Those
also
worked out pretty
Vatlin, yeah, worked out really well. Vatlin also was on
Black
Brunhild.
Brunhild.
Black
Yeah,
Brunhild.
Vatlin was the
What's
first one to
genre?
message me saying, "Hey, I didn't put in the Gil practice," and I was like, "Vatlin, you let me down." And then
Yeah.
he didn't top, so he deserves that.
Well, so he ended up running into me before the winning in, so I think that didn't help. He ended up drawing against the Gil, and I think he won one, or maybe he drew against both of the Gils that he played against. And then, yeah, ran into
Gotcha.
me.
Yeah,
and
but I
then
mean, like,
just-
if you don't put in the practice for Gil, then it's fine. Like, I know Kaltuma had been playing it for at least a month and a half, a couple of months, because he would message me some nights when he was going into locals, like, "Hey, I kind of had this play line last game. How do you think I should have played it out?" And it's actually not too hard to get good with Gil. If you put in a month of practice, you're going to be good with Gil. What is hard with Gil is recognizing the split-second opportunities to end a game that can shave 20 minutes off of your match time. And that is the hardest part of Gil, and I don't think any of the Arizona players know how to do that. I'm not even sure that that's something Jalen has figured out at this point, which is why you've failed to see him top an event with Gil so far. He just doesn't understand how to take these, like, instantaneous opportunities to close out a game, and instead you unfortunately, like, see him draw a lot. It's something that you see with a lot of Gil players. They just end up drawing too often because they don't know how to take advantage or go into risky scenarios like, you know what, I'd rather win or lose here and flip the coin than go for a draw. So you just jam it in, and it's going to work out more often than not. You kind of get in your own head when you're thinking like, oh, they could have these outs, or you're terrified of cards that you don't even know exist. Like, you're like, oh, what if they have what if my Gil attacks and they suddenly have something to both stop my two Arrival of the Heroes in my hand and also kill my Gil and, like, I don't know, take my firstborn away from me. It's like that card doesn't exist. They have one open mana. You have two Arrival of the Heroes. You can just jam it out and win. And, like, if the play doesn't work out, you lose 100%. But you have to know that there isn't a card in the game or reasonably in their deck that can stop you in that scenario. And that's why we've seen Gil fail to succeed at these last two Grand Prix. Well, it failed in Canada because nobody fucking showed up with it because Ryan Miles thinks it's a terrible deck, and he took Keurig instead. God, I wish I was there. I would have bodied you.
You know what pisses me off is that man went 2-0 all the way up until our top 4 match, and he's just looking at me with this mono red Keurig, not playing the Majins or anything, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm tapping out all the time, like, screw strength counters," and I'm just like, "Dude, you're not even playing it right. What the hell, man? How are you?"
Ryan Miles, dude. He doesn't need to know how to play the deck. He's still gonna body
That
everybody.
was literally his words. He was like, "Who needs strength counters when you kill them?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess you don't." But what? The rest of us.
That sounds like the one time Ryan would play Keurig in an event. That sounds exactly like the way he would play
He's
it.
just like, yeah, I guess since I can't play Majin, like, Numbing Hedgehog's a good card, right? And I'm like,
Oh my god.
and it was a really good card.
Yeah, but when you just take Gil out of the meta, we kind of had a kangaroo court type meta where you can really just play anything you want, especially at, like, these smaller events. Like, it's possible that, like, even if your deck isn't that good and you're not that good, you could just high roll into 4 favorable matchups and suddenly you're in the top 8 of a Grand Prix, which is how I would imagine Shayla managed to top.
For sure.
Well,
that's one of
and
the
I
things-
mean, that was
go
the
ahead.
thing. It was like going into it, right? Like, you're right. Because Gil wasn't there, Keurig was able to do what he was able to do. Like, and I've said it before. Like, the tiers were Gil at 1, Keurig at 1.5. Everything else somewhere down in the middle.
Yeah,
right?
and, like, it's as much as I've been, like, saying, like, oh, for the longest time, like, Gil is the best deck. You all need to learn Gil. It's a good meta to call to correctly identify that nobody fucking listened to me. I am still the only Gil player, apparently, aside from Jalen, who has yet to find success. God, I feel for Jalen. I know he's good. I don't know. I don't know. Unfavorable matchups. Too many Gil. He runs into every Gil player at every event.
Yeah,
Poor man.
I'm pretty sure he played.
He did
against
have to
all
play
3
Gil
of
in
the other
nationals
threes.
too, didn't he?
Yeah, Jalen just keeps running into Gil mirrors way too often, and he still hasn't quite figured out how to maneuver the matchup, which is fine. It's an extremely difficult piece of TCG technology, is the Gil mirror. But yeah, just correctly identify Aaron Miles isn't going to this tournament. Gil doesn't exist. We can jam whatever we want. Kangaroo corded up. There's 25 players in here. We're all playing fucking Calvin Ball with our world's invites, and suddenly it goes to Lucifer Dark Elf aggro.
So this is one of the things that I want to kind of point out, interestingly enough, or kind of the takeaway from this event, is that we are about to enter a really, really different meta with all the cards that have been introduced. Like really, really potentially really, really different, being in New Frontiers. And outside of the Ruler School, the FoW Festival, we don't have anything competitive until Worlds. So like, I think you're kind of in a very similar position to what Aaron is talking about, where like, if you want to play Gil, like you start practicing now, but recognize that this is also going to be probably the most unknown meta that Gil's ever walked into. And
Well, I don't know though. With 3 months, I think there should be enough internal testing with the
month and a
teams
half
that
until our event.
no till ours. Yeah, I'm talking
Yeah,
3
it's like
months till
to
Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
So like Gil's like if Gil shows to Worlds, like that player is going to know what the other best decks are, and
Oh,
they're
yeah,
going
for
to
sure.
come ready to go. Right, like this will be the first time that Worlds has ever had that much time. So I'm
It's also
actually
be the
looking
first time
forward
that
to.
Worlds has ever had that many cards legal in a day one event.
That's
So-
also very true.
The
Interesting.
funny thing about going into Worlds this year, you can do all the internal testing you want. But Worlds is going to be about 20 players, and not a goddamn person on the planet is aware of what John Paul Klintworth or Ryan Miles are sleeving up and bringing to that event. And I don't care how much goddamn testing you do, you will not know until round 2 what they have brought to the table. And at 20
That's-
people, you're playing one of them.
I think we'll
It'll
have
be
more
great.
than 20, but I agree with you that there are definitely some wild cards. In
I'm
the
pretty
Worlds-
sure there's
the
only
World
like
Player
30
community.
invites.
I'm pretty sure in the Worlds community anyway, there's just some really people who just build some very, very, very crazy stuff. So we'll have to see. Who wants to take the over or under on at least 3 people playing diversity combo with time spinning witch?
Under.
Under.
All right,
Defender.
hold on. That depends. How many Japanese invites were there?
I think they had
0.
3. I think they had 3.
If it's 3, then I'd take the over on 3.
Yeah, I don't know how popular that deck's actually going to be.
Yeah,
We'll have to see.
I think
I
Keurig
mean,
just
it's
says Pappy
actually
Bart.
Jeremy's. You guys, the Ruler School event is actually kind of in this unique position as like a lot of eyes. I don't know necessarily how the attendance is going to be, but global influence. There's going to be a lot of eyes on the top 8 results for that event,
for
especially
sure.
if named players show up.
Yeah, especially, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of would like to have people show up, is because I want it as much as it's also going to be this kind of celebration event. That's what we're going for. We're making it, trying to be as fun as possible. We're even hosting it in a school. Like, the venue is legitimately a school. So like, come on back to Ruler School and have an event. Let's do it. But I also want it to be like this really, really solid way for people to gain information about what the format is going to look like, both here in terms of our players getting to actually play in the format, as well as just like kind of an awareness of what we might be building into. Because I'm pretty sure there's not a single New Frontiers event outside of the United States from here until Worlds, because they all play advanced and cluster. And
The
Germany's playing
OLS.
Germany's playing a New Frontiers event with a ban list that they implemented themselves.
No, I thought that was cluster.
Or is it cluster? Even
It's
more
cluster.
different.
I heard it was cluster with a ban list.
even more
cluster.
different.
But yeah, the OLS is one that we're also kind of paying attention to for a little while because, specifically JPK and them, they don't really care. Like, so they'll play like whatever all the time, right?
Oh
so,
yeah,
like,
the OLS.
they don't.
Mhm.
I don't think they keep a lot of secrets over there. They're pretty confident in their abilities to play, and so like what you'll see out of them is just really a lot of what they've got going on in their heads. So we'll be kind of paying attention to the OLS, but I'm pretty sure Rogues Guild has already figured out something pretty bonkers, and I'm actually maybe a little worried that we might have a very stagnant Worlds, like maybe 1 or 2 decks.
I
Oh,
am
no.
extremely convinced that by the time we get to Worlds, the meta is going to be 100 times more boring than people were hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just,
I
I
can
mean,
see
like
that.
you can look at the set and be like, oh, there's like 30 new cards and they're all really high power. I guarantee you, whatever comes out on top, it's not going to be 20 different decks. It's going to be 1 or 2 decks. You're going to get tired of watching them after a while. Like if you watch Jeremy's event and then like a month and a half later, you're like, oh, it's just all still the same decks. Like, first of all, you have to understand that the World's players and the top 8 of Jeremy's event are going to be completely different caliber of players. Because like, what are there, 8 American invites?
Currently, yes.
So unless all 8
Oh, yeah.
Americans that with invites top Jeremy's event, then you're gonna have a completely different caliber of player. Especially like just getting to see foreign deck lists is usually really cool, which is something we're gonna have to look towards the OLS for. because I know there are still a couple of European and Asian players playing in that. But I don't think like Nyarlathotep like throw 20 moons at you is going to be the deck. Like even if Isis turns out to be a good deck, I don't think it's going to be like I made 20 moons and threw them at you. Or if it did, I did it on turn 2 and it wasn't very interesting to watch.
Careful, don't step on Lars's TED Talk.
I said if it happens on turn 2, it's not interesting to watch. All right, that's what Lars does. Like, yeah, I got that heat right now. Turn 2, turn 3, latest.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like kind of what the OLS does, because like if the OLS produces the kind of deck list that like we're seeing a little bit, then it might all be open. But like I almost kind of expect that maybe even our event in Michigan might, if
people find
it looks like the meta hasn't been cracked yet, I got a feeling a lot of the players going to Worlds are going to keep their spice to themselves, you know, and you're going to see Isis and stuff like that show up where
I'm just really looking forward to having to provide 20 moons to the stream table.
Oh my goodness!
I'll use them. I'll use all of them.
The best moon tokens
on turn 2.
Oh, and we need to get those. Machina counters.
Yeah, I think we're gonna make a contest for who can make who can win with the zaniest counters on board. Like we'll just make that like a little bonus.
A little side quest.
Yeah, we're also thinking about adding bounties that we would be providing to certain players. So if you can knock out a certain player or get a win off a certain player, you get a bounty.
Yeah, I mean we're looking for like good ones like Derek and like Ryan, but that's really kind of about it.
We're just answer.
You know, no one would take my bounty, so you don't want to waste it.
Oh my god! Actually, someone has been talking about how we haven't had any actual mass edition hate. Technically, there is one card, one and only, can technically wipe the board of all of your moons.
And they play Athena's Love, and you're like, what does this card do? Why does it protect all your entities?
Athena's Love. I love that card. That card
was ass at pre-release.
Speaking of.
At pre-release, every card was an acid pre-release.
No, I said gas.
Oh.
But you're not wrong.
Speaking of pre-releases, we got some interesting information. I don't have the images to pull up here because I couldn't get them high enough quality for this, but we did get actually shared the pre-release order kit, like the pre-release order information that was sent out to stores, and I confirmed that my local store, Odyssey Games, did get the information to them as well. So like stores have it for pre-releasing the first set of Next Cluster, Alice. The set is named Alice Origins, and it's like we're not sure exactly what the cluster name is. Is it's Alice Cluster again, or like Alice Alice Cluster? Or something?
It's Alice Cluster again. That's the name of the cluster
again.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. But that's been produced. It's been shown. It has new artwork for Faria. It has new artwork for Melgus, and it has this new third person. They are the 3 on the playmat. I imagine that they are probably going to be rulers. I can't imagine that they're not. We don't know really any other information other than that, except that the pre-release kits now come with 60 packs instead of 72. So whether that means it supports less players or there's more cards in the pack, we'll have to see. Which could mean that like we're suddenly going down to maybe more cards in the pack but 30 packs per box. Rampant speculation abounds, but I think the lesson to take away from this is there is a Next Cluster. Whee!
Dude, I could not tell you how excited I was. Like, you don't even know. Like, I called my wife. Like, I'm sitting across from Dylan, like, after I won, and I'm on the phone, and I'm thinking about, like, all right, am I actually taking this invite, or do I need to give this to Dylan? And I looked at him, and I said, look, real with you, 1-1. I don't know if there's going to be another Worlds. Like, this could be it. This could be the last set. Like, we have no idea what the heck this new company is doing. It could all be over. And I was like, I don't know if I can give that up. This poster made my whole flipping week. I cannot believe it. That is new art. Those are cards. They're still printing. The train is rolling, boys. We are still playing Force of Will in 2020. Let's go. Worlds 2020. Not giving that one away.
Proceeds to not top a single event.
Never. Put in too much work. That ain't a thing.
Oh man, you think all my
I see
Kyron card games. I'm coming.
I see Kyron in here being like, "Oh baby, Lancelot!" Like, I tell you what, man. I think if we bring back some Knights of the Round Table, whew, I'm about it. I do know that when someone mentioned the idea that Knights of the Round Table might be coming back, that Billy Buttons was in the world, like the admins chat, being like, like immediately started like freaking out and being like, "We back, boys!" Like I think there's gonna be a lot of fun cards coming out in that. We'll have to see what it is. I think the company knows that. So if I was the company, right, moving into this one, I think that clearly this set was too many reprints. Don't get me wrong, the cards that aren't reprints are really awesome, and I'm going to use all the reprints to build decks for everybody. And I'm also not opposed to reprints being in the set. Like, I'm not opposed to that because there are just some good cards that you kind of want to see reprinted, but like not from the same cluster. But there were some really cool cards in Alice Cluster that I think could be reintroduced, but like take less of the set. So like even Magic, like when they return to other planes in like new rotations, like they bring back some older cards from that plane. And I think that if Forcible could take a page from that for this set and you maybe do like a quarter of the set of like spicy reprints that like weren't cards that broke Alice Cluster or anything else, that I would be really hyped about that.
Yeah, reprints to go into a new meta, like that's a whole different ball game. Like I'm totally fine with those kind of reprints. Like, but try to avoid giving me the same card that I already have that I'm already playing with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
it is going
like
to be
if
exciting
Alice...
and pre-releases and all kinds of good stuff. Barrier of Shadows, Barrier of Runes.
Oh man.
Okay, let's go through this. If this will be our kind of we haven't done a question like this to close in a while, so I'll do this. If you could pick 3 cards from Alice Cluster to reprint, what would they be? No explanation, just what would they be? Aaron?
I have to go first. I'm trying to remember cards from Alice Cluster.
Same here, actually.
Okay. Well, I'll share my 3, I think.
Yeah, you do that while I look up Alice Cluster. That was years ago.
I would want to see I'd want to see Demon Flame printed. I'd want to see Space Time Anomaly get printed, and I would want to see, let's see, what would be the third? Rewriting Laws might be cute. I might want to see a Rewriting Laws reprint. That might be fun. Oh no, sorry, I've already fixed it. Fight Prissia. 2-drop shift.
Oh yeah.
Even if
that one.
even if it didn't have the shift side, I just want Fight Prissia.
Yeah, Fight.
We do rulers.
I'll take just the front. I'm saying like not rulers. I don't want to go back to rulers. I'm saying like main deck cards. So I want to see.
But I want to Dark Alice.
Demon Flame. So I want to see Demon Flame. I want to see the front side of Fight Prissia because I don't want to go back to shift cards because man, they were a nightmare. And then I'd want to see Space Time Anomaly.
I would have to go.
Someone is saying
honestly, I would have to go with like the red package. So like I would go Guinevere, Lancelot, Rook Egg. Like you give me those, because like Chiron's not a real red mage. Like we already proved that in nationals. Like I'm the real red mage. So like I would take those 3 cards in a heartbeat.
Jeez Louise, Rook Egg, Lancelot. I mean, though, without Reflect Refrain, okay, so I would allow that if we didn't allow Reflect Refrain can't come back, obviously, and we can't ever have Necromancy of the Undead Lord again.
It's fine. We just play Manisis. It'll be fine.
All right, it's easy. Arthur Pendragon, King of the Round Table.
Oh, nice.
Dance of Shadows.
Nice.
And probably my favorite Forcible card of all time, Ataraxia, Dimension of the Seven Kings / Illusory Demonic Globe, Ataraxia.
Wait, what?
That's a good card.
You win the game?
I want to win the game. I played that deck at a state championship without dual stones, where Ryan brought Stealth, and then we figured out Stealth was the deck for like the entire format. But like I did get in my one event with that. We went to nationals. Alex played my 12 Apostle deck, and I told him it wasn't as good as Stealth, and he got top 16 with it, losing only to, oh, that's right, me in Swiss, and then, oh yeah, me again in top 16, because I told him not to play the deck, but I love that deck. I don't think he actually played Ataraxia. He went for the Leviathan OTK, where you like sack off all your water stones, you just pump up your Leviathan after you bounce their entire board.
Louise.
But I loved Ataraxia specifically with Reflect, because you could Gil Lapis, be like, oh, I have another Gil Lapis in hand. I'm going to Reflect, bottom deck the Ataraxia, play another Gil Lapis, get the Ataraxia. There's just so much advantage. And like easily my favorite Epic Stories card because like sometimes you can get it off, sometimes you can't. But like
Yeah,
I
I mean,
always
I
love
put
to
it
play
in-
Gil
yeah.
Lapis, and I just love tap exile a card. Like I don't care about winning the game with it. I have tap exile a card. Love that. And it's beautiful. Gorgeous.
Derek, you're up.
All right. Well,
Close
since
this
I can't pick rulers, I'd have to say Lapis Darkstorm.
Okay.
Space-Time Anomaly was definitely like my favorite card of all time, and probably Celestial Wing Seraph.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about Celestial Wing, but we basically have that with Ophiel.
Yeah,
Don't-
Celestial's
don't
just
you
better
dare.
though.
It's not even.
Don't you
God, that's
dare.
you're not even nice. That's you're.
Basically,
Wait a
the
minute. Hold on.
same
Wait,
card.
Aaron.
You-
we
you're
just
being
no,
real
no, no, no,
basic.
no, no, no. It's fine. We get to Divinity. We get to Rune 5.
No, you are
We
not
play an
Celestial
Ophiel.
Winging into Ophiel.
We get a Celestial off of the Ophiel. We get another like it's.
We're not
No.
doing that. We're not playing that. I will Lancelot your whole board.
Wait a minute.
Blow
Celestial.
up your house with Lancelot.
50 counters.
Celestial Wing into Ophiel.
Dead.
So some ones from the chat that I'll say before we go is we have Barrier of Shadows would be someone wanting that, a Barrier of
Wow.
Runes as like a Barrier of Runes kind of thing. Staple reprints with new art would be welcomed. Reprint Lave, but it costs 2. I might be okay with that.
It's like,
I might be okay with that if you can only control 1.
is 2 enough?
I might be okay with that if you can only control 1, but it's Kyron, so of course Kyron wants it. Lancelot again, Little Match Girl would be dope to see back. That was a fun
Oh,
card
I
with
missed that
Awakenings.
card.
Gwyber, Lapis Darkstorm, Space Time Anomaly, Celestial Wing Seraph, Soul Burst, Blood
that was-
Boil. Interdimensional Escape. I actually really missed that card. That card's great. Athena, Titan of Revenge. Let's see. One sword to rule the world. Regalia having the legendary claws would be so much better. I agree. Endless Night. That'd be dope. Stephanie DeMarco. Of the people that are currently in this lounge, I'm going to Worlds because I'm streaming it, and Derek is going to Worlds with me, provided Delta stops being dumb.
I think I got it fixed.
Aaron and I
Josh
both gave
handed
ours
down
away.
invites.
We gave ours away.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
So-
another card. Tsukiyomi Noble.
Ooh, Suki
Ooh.
Omino would be dope.
That
That's
was
a good one.
fun
That is a
card.
good choice.
I
There's
missed
so many.
that.
Oh,
See,
hold
that's
on,
the thing.
hold on.
That's the thing. that I'm
Tsukiyomi
ex-
Noble's gonna suck ass. It's like, oh, do you have any moons? Yeah, I've got 20, idiot, and they all make mana. You ain't turning off none. I got more moons than you'll ever have.
So that's the other thing is like I think that if we could go back to Alice Cluster and have like a small pocket of it being like these non necessarily game breaking cards, and then the rest of it being all new stuff, I actually think that would be really, really awesome because I have been noticing more old school players kind of like looking at the game a little bit, but then it's very different and they're kind of missing cards from their old history, so they're not really invested. But then if we say, hey, we're back to Alice, we have some really cool cards that you remember and a ton of new stuff that you're going to enjoy, I think it actually could be a way to bring a bunch of people back. So we also just
Yeah,
need to
but-
combine it with a really good competitive scene, though. It
I would
has to be a
hate
competitive
that
scene.
because then the judge questions group would get flooded with people that are like, hey, I have all these Alice Cluster cards. How many of them are legal for play right now? I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I think
That
right
makes
now, if we
sense.
just go through these next 3 months, if we can keep the community that we have and keep everybody hyped going into the next cluster, I think the next cluster is going to be our next wave of new players because like
Sure.
we haven't had starter decks on the shelves in a really long time.
Yeah, that's
So
the other thing too. Is apparently, according to the company, according to the release that we've seen online and what it seems to be from this, is we're gonna have starter decks that get released alongside every set. So like new starter decks for every set as they come out. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I
so
know
you
the
know
starter deck
someone's
is
gonna like take a picture from a Walmart at the start of the next cluster, like, hey, check out my new starter deck that I just bought. It's like the prissiest starter deck from 2015, and it's like, hey, just got my starter deck for the new cluster. It says Alice Cluster on it. And it's like, oh,
Let's
homie,
go.
No.
going to the stockroom of Walmart to find that.
So that is going to be it for us for tonight, though. Great discussion. Again, if you just joined us,
Adam Broly.
Adam Brawley. Please, if you're interested, go consider at least checking out and maybe sharing out to people who you know that might be interested about the Forcible Ruler School Grand FoW Festival. The link is in the chat. That is the biggest thing that we are pushing right now because we just want to make sure this event is awesome, and the more people who pre-reg, the more pricing we can give back to you. So please, please, please go check it out. But that is going to be it for us for this week. Again, the rest of this week is going to be all the individual matches from Glendale, and then we'll be back at it next week. I'm debating whether or not I'm going to do a live stream unboxing of this set, mainly just because there's so many reprints. But I might do a short video kind of talking about the experience of box opening. Are you going to live stream?
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
I'll
So I'll at least have
when I get my 4 boxes, I'll do a live stream for sure.
I'll at least have you live stream it, and then I'll at least do a video talking about like what the pull rates looked like from 4 boxes and stuff from ours. Just because there's so many reprints, and I've got a few other projects that I want to get through. But that is it for us for tonight. Again, huge thanks to all of you for checking us out and joining us. Lots of fun as always. The chat was very active tonight, and that was awesome. But until next time, this has been myself, Jeremy Franklin, and I have been joined by Aaron Miles.
I have one last note, actually. If
Go
you're
for
wondering why they went back to Alice Cluster and not Grim or Lapis, I have the answers. See, in Lapis Cluster, this card called Lightning Strike came out, and it's got my pearly face on it. And in Grim Cluster, there was a card called Thunder that did the exact same thing. And Forcible knows that if they reprinted either of those clusters without reprinting my Lightning Strike with a new art for my face, I'd burn Singapore to the ground.
Singapore.
Okay. And we've also been joined by Josh Patton of Rogue Guild.
Not as angry as Aaron.
And the ghost of Derek Muguneza and Dark Alice. So until next time, that is us saying class dismissed. Have a good one, everybody.